What's up, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Nkanyiso Martin. Welcome to another video. Look, I'm not going to waste your time trying to explain why it took us so long to get to the next video. Otherwise, I would just be getting into a lot of things. All you need to know is life got extremely busy and I had to focus. Perhaps you could say that perhaps it wasn't the best time to start a YouTube channel, but look, I'm doing another video, so I'm actually glad that we did start the channel when we did. Also, I'd like to say thank you for all those who viewed the previous video, all of those who subscribed. Yeah, man, the support was extremely encouraging. So as we get into another video, I'm hoping that, look, you're gonna learn a lot. I'm hoping that we are gonna make this a lot more often and a lot more consistent as well. So like I said in the last video, we are going to be talking about the differences in mixing your live stream through a mixer or through a DAW. And to help us do this, shout out to my friend Lesedi, who works at Audioshow. So Audioshow opened up their doors to us, got us access to their DLive mixers. The one we're going to be using in this video is called the DLive C3500. Yeah, man, they opened up their doors to us and they allowed us to just have a whole day working on this video. I actually shot this video quite a long time ago. So you'll see outfits change. You'll see maybe, I don't know, either I lost or gained weight or whatever. But if this is interesting to you, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the rest of the video. And we're here. This is a DLive console. Thank you so much, Audioshow, for providing. I really wanted us to use an Avantis, but a lot of you guys apparently are buying up these things so much. And Lisedi said, Lisedi is the guy that allowed me to use this space. He said that after my video, a couple of you guys, a couple of Avantis consoles kind of disappeared. So I'm going to take the credit and say definitely it was me. We don't know for sure, but maybe. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So we are on a DLive console. This is the C3500 version. Yeah, it's a very beautiful console. It's got two big screens over there giving you a lot of information, beautiful faders, and all of that. Lisa is gonna go more into what this thing is all about, right? But the reason why you might wanna move your broadcast and run it on a console, I mean, is very straightforward. First of all, from the tactile faders to the fact that you will have no latency in your system is a big plus if you are going to be doing broadcast. You know, you don't want a person to be speaking or stuff to be happening on camera and the sound is just slightly delayed. So that is a big advantage of consoles, you know. Plus the tactile feel and the ease of navigation is just there for you to just, like, you know, you can reach out to any feature and anything that you want to reach out on. So how you set up a console like this, ideally you should be receiving audio from the front of house console or your monitor console, right? So in your church or in your context, there should be a front of house console that is taking care of sound in the house and taking care of sound for monitors for people's in-ears or, you know, monitors on stage. There shouldn't be a situation whereby you are doing front of house as well as monitors and then you are putting out an auxiliary or something to broadcast. That is not an ideal situation. If you are doing that, I'd like you to stop, because chances are it doesn't sound great. The reason why it is probably not gonna sound great is because the mix that you are doing for front of house is contextualized for your front of house speakers. It's not contextualized for people listening on headphones. It's not contextualized for people listening on their TVs and soundbars, right? So why would you expect a mix that is done for a nice big line array system or whatever system that you have at your church to sound good when you put your headphones on? That's just not how things work. So for every mix that you do, you have to have it be contextualized for the destination that you are sending it to, right? So if you are going to be sending it to people that are listening on headphones, sound bars, listening in the car, listening on their cell phones, that mix better be less dynamic than a mix that is going to be played out of a front of house system. So how you would share inputs between your front of house console and your broadcast console is through things like Dante, or if you are using the smaller Allen and Heath mixers, it would be things like S-Link. You can link different consoles together and share inputs. So there are many standards that you guys can actually employ in your setup to actually share inputs between a front of house console or a monitor console for that matter and your broadcast console. And that basically gives you a clear canvas of channels that are unaffected, except maybe with the gain. But it'll basically give you a clear canvas of channels that are unaffected, allowing you to essentially create a completely new mix that is contextualized for people listening at home. So to tell you more about the pros and cons of using a console for broadcast, I'm going to jump behind the camera while Lesedi from Audio Show actually explains to you guys the pros and cons, because that's what he actually uses at Rhema Bible Church. So Rhema Bible Church, when you listen to their streams, it's going to be this guy. So I'm going to jump behind the camera. They said he's going to jump onto this console, tell you more about the desk, and tell you the pros and cons of using a console, a live console for broadcast.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Lesedi. I am the product specialist for Allen Heath here in the South African region, a lot of Africa as well. Any of you that do know me know that I am the Allen and Heath guy. Yes. Today, I'm going to be helping Nkanyiso explain a few things about DLive, this platform here behind us. But if you know Allen Heath, you know that we make a whole series of consoles. If you've been around for a while in the industry, then you'll know that we made things like the GL2200, the 4400, moved on to iLive, and then moved on to DLive. The Avantis that Nkanyiso used in Durban that has become a fan favorite, especially in the church space because of the dual touchscreens. But for today, we're talking about the Mac Daddy, which is the DLive.
How come you don't mention the QU32, the SQ? Because those are the things that have been helping us at churches, you know?
Yeah, so the Q has become the bread and butter. But now, if you've been around, you'll know that the SQ is our bread and butter now. The SQ, because it uses modern technology, it uses the FPGA that Allen and Heath is known for, has that same low latency. The Q was the bridge between analog and digital, so that guys that came from the analog space could walk into the digital space and still know one-to-one patching in between things. But the nice thing with the Q is that it could still patch into our stage boxes, where back in the day you ran a long snake cable with all these inputs and outputs in there, but now you just take a Cat5, Cat6 cable and you can run one cable to front of house from the stage and you're good to go for a show.
Here's a quick question.
Yeah.
Can guys actually run a broadcast off of an analog? I received that question recently. Please correct them.
So it's not no, it's just I would frown upon it, and there's reasons why. The flexibility of an analog console is very limited. The sound quality that you're going to get in terms of... Here's the thing. We're streaming to digital platforms now, right? So it's actually a good idea to try and mix things on a digital platform so that you can monitor things such as levels very well, so that your output is coming out at the right place, everything like that. I just think in terms of versatility and how you need to achieve things online, it would be difficult. Here's the thing that people are expecting now. It's a studio mix that you're putting out online these days. So you need to start using studio tools in order to output a studio quality broadcast mix, right? We're listening on devices that are not monitors and speakers that are designed for you to mix on. These are things that are expecting a mastered and mixed signal coming in. So you need to actually get input in a way of like it's a studio and then output it the same way, right? So that's why I would frown upon it. It's not that you can't, but I definitely would question things.
Guys, please don't Don't
do it.
try it. Don't try it at home.
But we love analog though. I know a lot of rock bands these days. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are still on analog consoles. I know Green Day and Offspring that came to South Africa a few months back were also being mixed on analog consoles. Very, very good sound coming out.
Yeah, but outboard gear.
Outboard gear for days though. They had outboard gear for days. They had plenty outboard gear just in order to get that sound coming out.
So by the time you get a comparable analog mix, how much have you spent?
A lot. Where you could get a Waves rig.
You know?
You get a Waves rig, get a Fourier audio, transform, engine, and things like that. Yeah.
We'll talk about waves and all of that stuff later.
We must graduate.
Awesome.
Nice.
Take it away.
Cool. So the DLive that is right behind me is a 128 input and 64 bus platform that we're working on, right? It doesn't matter which DLive you get, doesn't matter which mix racks you get, they're all going to do the same things. The beauty of DLive is that all the mixing is happening in the mix rack. That's why it's not called a stage box, it's called a mix rack. All your processing is happening there. So if all your inputs are plugged in there, all your mics, all your speakers are there. If this thing switches off, load shedding in South Africa, your audio will still pass through there. As long as that has power, it will still input and output audio.
So this is just the control surface.
Control surface. That's why we only call it a surface. It's a glorified keyboard and mouse, as Tamash would say from Ellen Heath.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool. So on this platform, lots of versatility. You actually have a way that all these banks could be empty or show you what you want. So in essence, what you see in front of you is what you want in front of you, right? So I could have a blank layer. I could have all the inputs I want here. I could have DCAs here. Anybody who knows me knows that my first bank is just DCAs, right? Cool thing about this platform is that it just got a version 2 upgrade. Version 2, you're thinking, why did they release version 2? This is a 9-year-old platform, so they needed to try and push it into the next 10 years of the digital space. Mixers are getting better, so Alan Heath's answer to that was DLive version 2. What does version 2 encompass? A little bit of workflow changes, but the biggest thing was the Ultra Effects. Ultra Effects is additional effects added to the desk where you get beautiful studio-grade reverbs, tuning, harmonizers, saturations that you can get, amp simulations and all things like that. And the nice thing is that it doesn't take any buses away from what you have. It's just 8 additional buses. The beauty of it is you've got pre-EQ, pre-dynamics, post-dynamics, and post-EQ, which changes your creativity completely. And obviously the effects engine itself, right? For a lot of guys, the vocal tuning is their favorite thing, but guys, for any engineer, reverbs are the biggest thing. They're the biggest thing. We just want a lot of space. The platform has 6 different types of surfaces. It just depends on which size you want. Jordan Rakai the other week was just using a platform that was half the size of this and mixed full band. One of the cleanest mixes I've ever heard. Amazing. Touring ready rig. There's S5000, which is the fan favorite in South Africa here. All the production companies grabbing one of those because it is a production grade one, but it's not so large that you need a whole crew to carry it into the venue. 2 guys perfectly able to carry it in. Then above that, we've got the S7000, which is the biggest flagship one. In South Africa, we've only actually sold S7000s into churches. Oddly enough. And then after the S5, the second favorite is a C3500 for obvious reasons. And we have 2 classes in DLive. We have the S class and we have the C class. I call the C class the cost-effective range, meaning you're just missing some of the redundancies, some of the controls on the platform, but you still get the capability of a full-grown DLive, whereas S class comes with more little knobs, more soft keys, more fader banks, but now you have redundancies on everything.
Okay, so answer the big question of today. DAW versus console.
Awesome.
I'm going to take care of the DAW side later on
Easily.
in the video. You give me this side.
Awesome.
Tell me.
So in my preference, I am always going to be a console guy, but there's reasons for it. In terms of workflow, how quick you can get to things, I always say with the console, it's very easy to just jump around, jump to an EQ, jump to a compressor, have little buttons conveniently placed for you on the console, right? The tactile feel of fader banks, it's always going to be good because in mixing, a little movement like that can make a huge difference in terms of your balance of your mix. So it's nice to have fader banks on here as well. In terms of patching, very quick to do on here as well. I would also say that latency is a big thing for me. Latency, once you get to a place where you have super low latency on all your inputs and outputs, it's hard to unhear it. So I always prefer consoles with low latency, keeping it in the box. Yes.
What is latency?
Latency, in essence, is how much time it takes for a console or computer to complete a round trip of audio from in to out. All the way from the source to the preamp, all the little things in between, from your preamp to your EQ to your compressor and all of that stuff out to your speaker. We want that round trip to be as seamless as possible. But it's not just that. We need that for every single input, every single group. We would like it for every single signal to come to the speaker at the same time for a thing called phase coherency. When it comes to phase coherency and latency, there's no console that can beat DLive in that, with 0.7 milliseconds from input to output. Even if you go from input to group to output, all the groups will come out at the same time, all the inputs will come out at the same time. And the FPGA that's in this is also known for phase coherency. Meaning if you're going to look in Pro Tools and see a snare snap, you're going to see that same wave from input to output.
So you've mentioned the tactile stuff. Tactility.
Yes.
You've mentioned latency. What other pros and cons?
Pros and cons. In the church space, I'd always say that console is more volunteer friendly. It's a little less intimidating than a DAW. DAW does look cool though, hey. I'll also say
Yeah, look at it.
One of the downsides also is that, yes, in broadcast spaces, a lot of guys have realized that live consoles allow for that versatility a lot of the time. So all these things you watch on TV, usually behind the scenes, it's a live console being used now, right? The one thing I could say a DAW has over console is the ability to add a mastering chain. For me, in terms of broadcast, I think a mastering chain is very important, which is certain series of compressions happening, EQs happening on the master, and limiting happening. Just so that you know that your signal that's slamming into YouTube, Facebook, into your constellation, you just need to know that that signal is coming in at the right level. And you want consistency across devices. Whereas in a live environment, we mixing on big PAs that can handle everything at the same time. Whereas guys at home are on phones, they're on laptops, they're on TVs, on different devices. And it's just really good to know that the signal coming out can be super consistent across everything.
Talk about price as well, because I know to get a stream working on this is much cheaper
Yes.
than getting it working on this. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
The thing about that is that if you think about it, there's a lot of parts to this to build it. Whereas here, you're investing in the laptop, a DAW, the software, all the plugins you're obviously going to do. And for those ones that are cracking, we'll talk at another time. But a lot of the time, that does build up. But it won't build up to a place of a DLive level, unless you're intense like that. So in terms of barrier to entry, if you're starting out, I would say that on a DAW is a good place to start. But for a lot of guys, it's a learning curve. Whereas here on the console, yes, it's ready to work. It's input to output. It's really easy to work. But I would say the price is higher. But remember, in terms of consoles, there's options all around. There's entry level to pro level, right? So it doesn't mean you always need to jump to DLive. If your church has inputs that are not even 64, it makes no sense to go for something like a DLive. Whereas if your church every week is chilling at 72, 90 channels, then it makes sense to go for a DLive. You can start with things like SQ, which is 48 channels. I've heard a lot of guys make some amazing live broadcasts on an SQ, right? And then obviously you saw in Durban, the guys were using Avances, and that also produced a really good result, right? Which Nkanyiso will get into. So it's always about context. It's not one size fits all. For me to go to a church and say, you need a DLive every time, I doubt we'd get many deals here.
Big thanks to Lesedi and Audio Show for helping us with this part of the video. If you have any questions about Ellen and Heath products or any of the brands that Audio Show sells, don't hesitate to reach out to him on the details shown on the screen right now. And if you are looking for an Ellen and Heath console for your own church, reach out to me via email so I can get you the best deal. So to wrap up this section of the video, we are going to be mixing some audio from Eternal Glory Church that was recorded last year, and we are mixing it through the DLive with a mastering chain going through Logic Pro to demonstrate how a typical broadcast setup would look and sound like through a mixing console. But before we do that, here's a recap of the pros and cons that Lesedi touched on. Alright, I hope you took a screenshot there if you need that info to convince your pastor to buy you a console. And now we can get on to the mixing. So the setup you are going to see here is a setup simulating a typical broadcasting setup where the broadcast mixer receives audio from front of house through Dante, and that audio is then mixed within the console, and then the master left and right of that mix is sent to Logic Pro via Dante for mastering. On Logic, I'm simply using a master bus compressor, an EQ, and a mastering limiter. Don't worry, we are gonna go more in depth on how to get everything sounding the way that it's gonna sound on this mix on later videos. So if you'd like to see that, remember, like, share, subscribe. Let's go.
Your neighbor, lungisa indaba yakho noJesu. Ay, bazalwane, whoa. Tell your neighbor, lungisa indaba yakho. Come on. Shoot. What? Asaba. Oi. Lungisa indaba yakho noJesu. Lungisa
just like that, we are at the 26-minute mark, which means this video is now way too long. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, I do think that this is a good place to end it. On this video, we were able to discuss the pros and cons of using a mixer to mix your live broadcast, and we were able to finish it off with the demo of how an Eternal Glory Church performance would sound on a DLive C3500. Now, these DLive consoles do come with some beautiful reverb and vocal tuning plugins as an optional extra on the latest software version, which unfortunately was not installed on this particular DLive that I was using on this demo. And I do think it would have taken this mix to an even better place, but nonetheless, we were able to get a good result. Now on the next video, I'm going to be back at the studio and we are going to flip the script and do this from a DAW perspective. Now if you don't want to miss that, I'm going to say it again. Please like, share, and subscribe. On the last video, I got over 7,000 views. Again, thank you. Yet only 750 people subscribed. Come on guys, let's do better. Please subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something, and see you on the next one. Shout out.